ground. The next election is between him and someone else who has absolutely no qualification. He's never run anything. He has not done anything that can give you the impression that he's going to be a good leader. He's you know, a guy that did not even complete a prison sentence. He tells he was to be governor, and we elect him. He comes in 3 years later, he loses Nairobi to the ground, he's impeached. Then there's another election. And in this election, we have someone who has a history that can be verified, who's educated, who has a record of accomplishment. I'm talking about Paul Kapigade. He's running against a guy who has absolutely no qualifications. I'm talking about Sakaja. Has never ran anything. He's never ran a kiosk. Can't even have the discipline to get an education like you and I. And you look at these two people, and the people select someone who does not have the discipline to even earn a bachelor's degree. He goes and procures something just so he can check a box. And we put that guy into office. And right now, you look at Nairobi, they are complaining about the looting that's happening. Nothing is getting done. We also have to look at us and say, why is it that we elect thieves? Why are we selecting the wrong people all the time? So we have to look at ourselves and say, we can do better. And so I'm trying to answer the question that was asked by that lady. To me, it comes down to the people that we elect. If you elect good people, people of good character, there's always going to be a few people that are going to be thieves, but that's not going to be the majority. If you look at right now, most people that are in government right now are thieves. You look at every county, when a governor leaves, there's an investigation by the EACC. Almost every governor of Murang'a, governor of Siaya, governor of Migori, governor of Kiambu, like every single governor that comes out is under investigation because we are putting the wrong people into office. And I'm just telling you, there's no resources that we can devote as a country that are going to overcome the problems that we create by electing thieves. Even the EACC, to me, is totally ineffective. But even if there was desire on the EACC to fix this problem, you just don't have enough people or enough money, right? If we elect good people, that's going to solve 90% of the problems. And that's what happens in a place like Canada or the US, where you elect people that are people with a good character, right? They're not thieves. They're not corrupt people. And that solves 90% of the problem. So if you elect me, for example, and I understand what it means to be a public servant, I'm going to go to Parliament, and if a government wants to do something for, wants to build, let's say, a stadium in my community, I'm going to say, hey, I appreciate you wanting to do that, but I want to make sure that this project actually brings value to my people, right? Does it bring value? And I want to make sure that my people are involved in decision making, so that if we proceed with our project, we know how much it's going to cost. We want to make sure that the investment is a prudent investment, and that the project is actually going to bring value to my people. But the people that we have right now, in Parliament, they just don't do that. So I think Kenya needs a total makeover. We need a culture reset. We need people that understand what does it mean to be a public servant. And we also need our own people to understand, what do you expect and what should you expect from someone in Parliament? Their job is not to distribute bursaries. They're supposed to be holding the government accountable. They're supposed to make sure that the government is not wasting our resources. They're supposed to, how can you have a country where we've accepted corruption is part of our life right now? You look at our police, for example, everybody knows the police are corrupt, and yet nothing is done about it, right? So I'm saying we need a reset. We need a total makeover. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I make a comment on Bonnie?
Sure.
Bonnie, I think for me, my thought process when it comes to that, I guess comparing America and Kenya is one thing that is evident and people need to realize is that in America, most of the systems have been set in place to promote the rich. So in as much as we may not realize, they're pretty much, if I'm to give it a good word, it can be viewed as corrupt, so you can find you have a government official who is genuine, but the policies that have been set in place are actually favoring the rich or, the haves, as opposed to the the lower class. So if we focus on changing the systems across the board, wherever, in every country that we are in, then that will actually take us to another level where we are trying to promote change. And we've seen that happen with the IMF, World Bank issues, and also within our internal policies. I don't know what state you are in, but I know in Delaware we are fighting about changing the entire system in America because the policy is geared towards keeping the poor and the middle class down, where you cannot lift yourself up, and the rich continue to be rich based on the policies that they've set in place. I just wanted to comment that so that we can realize that the Americans are sophisticated, where they've put their interests first. And if we try to just protect ourselves, then we'll be able to change. Or if we speak up, as the diaspora also from our different states, then we'll be able to protect the money that is also going back in Kenya to ensure people are getting that money and it's not getting stuck in between in the pipeline.
Can I just make a quick comment on that? I mean, so
yeah,
the discussion I think that we're having is not whether or not the American system is perfect. The difference between a banana republic and a country that that functions is this. You look at, so I live in Texas, right? I live in Texas. My kids go to a public school system. You know, if you follow me, you've seen where they go to school. It's always, there's always going to be, a few imperfections in the system. But what I'm talking about is 90%. If you look at the US, for example, if there's a budget for building a school, right? 95% or 98% of the what was intended is actually gonna end up happening. So they build a school, and you can see it's a good school. I don't have to take my kids to a private school because my public school works, and my kids are gonna succeed in that school, right? The difference between a place like Texas and Kenya is that in Kenya, they are taking 98% of the funds and using 2%. Do you understand the difference? Is that in a place like Kenya, 98% of the money is stolen, and the only amount that actually gets to the people is the 2%. In Texas, it's the opposite. If someone is going to steal, it's a very small fraction. So when I compare the Kenyan system and the US system, I'm not saying that the US system is perfect. I'm saying that it works. And how you know it works is I live here. Okay, I can afford to take my kids to a private school, but I don't need to do that because I know that I live in a place where the government functions, right? They have good teachers in the schools. My kids, everything that my kids want, whether it's academically, whether it's sports-wise, they get it from that school. And that's what we're trying to say. We're not shooting for a system that's perfect, right? I'm saying right now, in most places in Kenya, right, because you can't tell me that if your kid happens to be in a car accident tomorrow, most people are not gonna be able to take them to the local hospital because it's not gonna be staffed, they're not gonna have equipment. Going to a private school, many of you have their kids in a public school. You are paying money in taxes, but you don't actually get any services from it because the schools are garbage, right? So you're actually paying taxes that don't help you. I pay taxes here in Texas, and my kids go to a public school because it's a good school, right? If I send my kids to a hospital, they're gonna be taken care of. That's what we're talking about. When I'm driving on a road that's safe, right? So again, this is not a comparison about ideals. I'm talking about just basic things, right? You can't, I'm not saying America is perfect. I'm saying it's a good starting point. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Could we please have David submit, and then we'll go to Dr. Ari, then Dr. Ajus. Thank you. David, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Judy. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Once
I think we lost you there. Can anybody hear him?
No, I can't hear him either.
Yeah, David, we lost you. Could you just drop and come back? In the meantime, could we go to Dr. Ray, then Dr. A?
All right. Thank you very much, Lady Justice, and all the speakers that have gone before. I think let me begin by just and I didn't introduce myself the first time. I am Dr. Duncan Onyango. I am an environmental engineer. There's some okay. There's some noise from somewhere.
Yeah, somebody mic is unmuted. Can you mute all the mics for Dr. to speak? Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. Ray. Dr. Ray, please unmute and go ahead. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I was not able to unmute myself previously. Okay, I was just saying I'm Dr. Duncan Onyango. I'm an environmental engineer. I teach in one of the public universities here in Kenya, the Technical University of Kenya. I'm also a consultant in environmental sustainability. Now, I want to begin by reiterating what my good friend Bonnie has just said, that the American system and all these other systems that we compare ourselves to or that we draw inspiration from may have their own weaknesses at a higher level, but at least they have built systems that work for the majority, for many of the people. Here we have a system, as Bonnie says, 98 to 2. We have gone way beyond the Pareto principle that says that 80% of our problems usually result from 20% of causes. But here we are talking about 98 to 2, or maybe even 99 to 1. So a system that works only for 1% of the elite up there and does not work for every other person is a system that we must speak up, not only speak against, but we must also take active steps towards going to rectify these problems. As Bonnie has challenged us, I'm sure he has always tasked us. We know where the solution lies. The solution lies in us stepping out, the elite of the society. Many a times we would we shy away from politics, but I think now I'm happy because most of us have realized that politics is too important and every aspect of our being and our development is intertwined with politics. And we can't leave it to these irresponsible people that we are talking about. Many people, we were trained knowing that we were trained growing up, or go to read very hard, get good grades, go to the university, you get a job. And most people for whom that principle worked, the people who got jobs after campus and they came to the middle life here in Kenya, they got comfortable and they forgot about what is happening. So for a long time, now we are waking up to realize that so many things are even happening in parliament in terms of legislations that under normal circumstances would have gone without our notice. But these are things that have very grave implications for our lives, like these agricultural laws that we are talking about here. So I want to challenge my fellow colleagues, my fellow elites. Let's not be comfortable in our professions. Let's not be comfortable in that the life is working for us. We can be able to afford the bare minimum for ourselves and the families, and we just don't seem to care about what else happens. We have seen that if we don't step out and take these and get ourselves into these into governance, then these politicians of old will run this country down in our eyes. Again, I had a lot of questions and points about the tree planting exercise. They actually call it tree growing. A good concept. They got a good concept, but as is a characteristic of this regime, they get every good concept. They get good concepts, but apply them wrongly, and they end up not working completely. The bottom-up economic transformation agenda was a good concept, looking at it from face value, but it doesn't work in actual reality. Yeah, the tree growing exercise is a good concept, In fact, they are not even calling. I heard the previous the CS when she one time on TV saying, correcting the journalist that it's not tree planting, it is tree growing, because we need to nurture them all the way. But and as long as that exercise is not based within schools, the best place to realize that idea, as has been pointed out, would be within our schools. I was greatly disappointed when the first exercise was launched during school holidays. I asked myself, do these people really know what they're doing? We really need to rethink some of those policies so that we know, as we ask ourselves, what species of trees are being grown. That has been prosecuted very well, I think, by one of the speakers that came earlier. We must ensure they're the right species. And where do they come from? I haven't heard in my village local youth groups being constituted to form to start tree nurseries so that they can be able to sell seedlings to the government program. So where these seedlings come from in their millions, nobody knows. That must be answered. If that program is being done based in our school system and also used to empower the local communities, then it will be a good program. Otherwise, we'll end up with programs that were very good. I made reference to Galana Kulalu in my opening remarks. More than 10 years down the line, nobody knows where that project went, yet a lot of money was sunk. So the elite of our society, we must come forward. We have brilliant people in our universities, in our professions. We must be able to come out and correct the mess that is going on at Kilimo House. One of the greatest challenges, I don't know if somebody spoke to this when I stepped out, in our with our food security system, is this devolution of agriculture. Agriculture is supposed to be fully devolved, yet Kilimo House is filled up to capacity, so much so that they have overflown to Hill Plaza in Upper Hill. That is still Ministry of Agriculture. Kilimo House imejaa until they are the part of the Ministry of Agriculture at the national level at Hill Plaza in Upper Hill. Do we need all these people to be working on just policy? Because now at the ministry, at the national level, we were told that they're supposed to be working on national agricultural policy. Then the actual work is supposed to take place at the counties. Yet Kilimo House is full, Hill Plaza is full with the people of the Ministry of Agriculture at national level. I happen to have provided project management support to the Ministry of Agriculture on a few programs. One of them is called the Small Scale Irrigation and Value Addition Program that was funded. Actually, it happened 1 and 2, funded by the African Development Bank. Another one that is now been launched is a program for building resilience for food and nutrition security in the Horn of Africa, still financed by the World Bank. Hundreds of millions coming into agricultural programs through the national government. And what does the national government do? Like the CVAP, the Small Scale Irrigation and Value Addition Program, is meant to support small scale irrigation at grassroots level. But this program is being run by the national government. And we are sent to the counties to go and put up boreholes. We sink boreholes, then support the community to develop small scale, use the borehole water to support small scale value addition, irrigation and value addition. This program is being run directly from the national government. Sometimes you would go, you don't know what the county also has its own programs. They're building boreholes. So we have one community, like earlier this year was in Meru. The county has its own program. We're also there. So even the local communities are confused which program is which. So I feel that there's a lot of money that is going in, but it will end up that this money is not going to create the intended impact. We are talking about a program to build resilience for food and nutrition security in the Horn of Africa. What is it going to achieve? Hundreds of millions go. So if we were in a proper system, then those are monies that should be channeled through where devolution, this devolution thing. Why should there be that duplication of responsibility? Why should what role does the Ministry of Agriculture have in going to sink a borehole for a small-scale irrigation project directly in the middle of nowhere, somewhere inside the county? So those are some of the things that we have to step up and correct. Finally, there's one thing, even as we talk about food and nutrition security and all these things, we must be able to, and this will cut across all sector, we must begin to support our local enterprises to be able to do some of these things that we are doing. I want to draw an example from the fishing. I come from South Nyanza, and fishing was the traditional economic activity along the lake. Now, fishing has gone to another level. Most of the fish you eat in Nairobi here are farmed fish. Fortunately or unfortunately, maybe not farmed fish from around, but farmed fish from the lake. We know that now there are investors that have come there and they are doing fish farming, large-scale fish farming. What do they call them? Those fish caging in the lake. Those are most of our local farmers have been thrown out of business because we were not able to empower them to be able to invest in it. What is so technical about fish caging that we must get victory farms, and I don't have anything against victory farms, I'm just using it as an example, to come and invest in Lake Victoria. We couldn't put ourselves together and empower local fishermen to be able to invest in fish farming in Lake Victoria. We attended the Homa Bay International Investment Conference earlier this year, and one of the anchor investors that were given an enterprise license to operate within the new special economic zone that was launched in Homa Bay was Victory Farms. This is a foreign farm. What they simply did is to go and invest in fish cages. Now they are supplying fish all over the country. Even here in Nairobi, I buy fish from a Victory Farms outlet from Nairobi West when I want fish. So we look at all that. We simply needed to support also our farmers to be able to invest in such kinds of activities. Then we are able to grow and promote our local enterprises. These people will do the business. Yes, they come to invest, they pay tax, but the profit is repatriated back into their own countries. So we really need to build a system that works for us. For us to be able to achieve food security, we need to large-scale irrigation systems that can support mechanization, mechanized agriculture. I'm yet to hear the Ministry of Agriculture talk or introduce any policy on mechanization and large-scale agriculture. So we will keep being here. We pretend that we are supporting small-scale, but that is subsistence. For us to be able to achieve national food security so that we can have even surplus to export, we must be able to move from small-scale subsistence agriculture to large-scale mechanized agriculture supported by proper irrigation schemes. And I challenge us that these things, we don't want just to end up as being advocates. We want to build a system that is going to help us achieve these things. So I want to challenge us, brothers and sisters, those of us, they are good leaders here. And Bonnie has given this challenge to us here and even to me personally. Let's not be comfortable where we are. This is the time to build and identify and nurture leadership that will take over from this current crop of octogenarian politicians that have held our systems hostage. This is the time to step out. We team together, we work, we mentor, we nurture leadership so that when we get into the next election, we want not only to be career activists where we just advocate for good things. Activism is good. In fact, we will keep advocating. But while that advocacy is going on strongly, we also need people who will step out and take over so that in 2027 or the next time we go for elections, we need to have a house We need to have Lady Justice, prosecuting these good points in Parliament. Rubicon. We need to have people now coming back home to be able to help us. We want Bonnie to come and do this economics, help us with a bit of economics from home after being away from the country for so long. So I want to challenge people. Now there's a lot of organization that is going on. There are a lot of initiatives that are going on behind the scenes, including people who are organizing themselves politically to be able to go. Because if we send one or two people into parliament, they will be corrupt. They will be overtaken by the system. So the game now is, how do we get people in mass so that we have control of parliament? Parliament is in the hands of people who can help us to be able to put these things into actual practice. So that is the challenge that I leave with us here. Let us, if you are that kind of a person, please don't keep quiet. If you have that conviction, I again realize that many of us have those convictions, but we're just quiet with them until in a forum where we challenge people to come out, and we received a lot of DMs of people of the same mind. And now when we receive them, we direct them to the right place. We team them up with people of like mind, and urge them to craft something that can help us to be able to overhaul that parliament and those county assemblies in 2027. So don't keep quiet if you feel that there's a conviction in your heart that there's something you can do, either in terms of helping us crafting a strategy or coming out to take active part in the next leadership. So don't keep quiet, reach out, let us talk, let us be able to now move this conversation from what the problem is to what we can do about the problem. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Dr. I think that was a brilliant submission. I just wanted to add to the Galana Kalulu project. It's true, is a glaring example of a missed opportunity in sustainable development. I think instead of transforming Kenya arid lands into a vibrant agricultural hub, it has turned to be a white elephant project and a waste of public resource. Another example is also the Itere Dam water supply, which was to supply water to thousands of residents, that has not even taken off. So I think there is this disconnect. There is the plan on paper, which is the bottom economic up approach, but which is very different on the reality on the ground. Thank you. That's my few addition.
Well, thank you, Abdi, for that submission, and Dr. Ari, thank you very much as well. Dr. Jackson, please.
Thank you so much, Lady Justice, for giving me this opportunity. Mine would be robustly brief. Now, when I was just getting in, I've actually heard of people discussing our state of political leadership, and that is why I would take it before I come to the real issue in discussion. Are you able to get me?
Yes, we hear you, but you're breaking a little bit, so just go on.
Okay. Now, sorry for that. Now, let me say this, that the biggest challenges or challenge that currently we have in our country is actually the people who are leading us, and this is specifically the representative at the constituency level, members of parliament. And so we have a hashtag that is going on called Dissolve the Parliament. That is where we are facing. And then the other part that we are pushing for is also issues of ID issuance. Once we are done with that, then we can now be in a position to bring a new crop of leaders who can be able to take us forward in implementing some of the best policies that Kenya has developed that is being used outside Kenya in countries like Rwanda. That aside, let me come back to the issue of environment and food security. I happen to have a proper background on public health, nutrition, and of course, that specializations discusses a lot of areas on food and nutrition security.